Hi guys, it's Mandy from Mandyleeplays, and in today's video, I'm gonna do a niche game. A game that a lot of you guys probably might not know about. And what is this said niche game? Pokémon Legends Z-A. I was being a little sarcastic, of course. Everybody knows what Pokemon is, so let's just, hop right into the video. But as always, before we do that, hit that like button if you like the video, subscribe if you're not yet subscribed. I'm trying to get to 10k, so hopefully we can do it. And also hit that hype button if you feel so inclined to. But I do want to add something else. This is not containing any spoilers. We are just talking about Pokémon Legends Z-A and all the official released information that we've gotten so far. So no worries, no spoilers here. So jumping on in, I want to address something. If you guys aren't new to the channel, you probably know I got a big bone to pick with Pokemon. I've said my opinions about it plenty of times, but essentially I just like to think about it as a situationship because I love it and I want to see it do well and grow, but all the stuff that they have been doing recently and the direction that Pokemon is going is not really my cup of tea. But I still hold on hope that one day a Pokemon game will come in and I could just be like, oh my god, I love Pokemon again. And I think that Legends Z-A is probably going to be that game. Number one, because the game so far looks awesome. And I really loved Pokemon Legends Arceus. So that's why I think Legends Z-A is going to be that game. Hopefully. Fingers crossed. I mean, I said the same thing with Scarlet and Violet and we all know how that one panned out. Now let's move to consoles and prices. Now this is going to be easy because Pokemon games are only on Nintendo consoles, so I'm basically just going to talk about the Switch 1 and the Switch 2, and some console confusions regarding the two platforms. Now, Nintendo uploaded a video that confused a lot of people more than it clarified, which is per usual Nintendo. The video basically said to, and I quote, "Please make sure to buy the edition that matches your system.
Please be sure to purchase the game edition that matches your system."
And it also said, get this, if you get the Switch 2 version, it can also be played on the Switch 2.
The Nintendo Switch 2 edition of the game can be played on a Switch 2.
Wow, Nintendo, I really did not see that coming. Of course I should be able to play my Switch 2 game on my Switch 2. Moving on though, let's break this down. If you buy the Switch 2 version, this game can also run on the Switch 1 as well, but it won't have the Switch 2 enhancements. It even states that on the box, you know, that long big paragraph that's ruining the box art. So what they're basically saying is, if you get it for the Switch 2, you're good for the Switch 1, and if you eventually want to get a Switch 2, you could play that game and enjoy it with its upgrades on the Switch 2. So hopefully that clears up some confusion. Now for the prices. If you want to get the Switch 2 version, it will come out to $70, but if you want to get the Switch 1 version, it comes out to $60. There hasn't been anything out on how these two different versions run, but assuming the power level of the OG Switch, yeah, it's probably night and day. But at least they still care about their OG Switch users. So yeah, even though we're talking about Pokemon, which is always on a Nintendo Switch, I still had to break this down because it could get pretty weird. Nintendo needs to do a better job communicating to its consumers. Alrighty, now with all that jargon out of the way, let's go on to the story, and something that I'm actually pretty excited about. The Legend games are notorious for having a better story than the mainline games. I mean, Legends Arceus is a good point for that. So let's now summarize the synopsis of the story. And again, there's no spoilers here. First is, contrary to popular belief, this game does not take place before X and Y. It actually happens after the events of X and Y. So when you see certain characters, it does make sense that this game takes place after the events of X and Y. The region where X and Y takes place is the Kalos region, which is based off France and Paris. If you look at Lumino City, it's pretty obvious. But the more strict setting of Luminos. So this whole game takes place in Lumino City. I do know that the portrayal in X and Y did not do the city justice, but in universe, Lumino City is huge. Like really big. The entire plot of the game centers around the Luminos Urban Redevelopment Project. This is spearheaded by Quasarigo. So your character arrives to Luminos City and quickly gets recruited. And while all this is happening, there's another plot point going into play. And that's the fact that there is a mysterious phenomenon that wild Pokemon in Luminos City spontaneously mega evolve and go berserk. So all that being said, it sounds like a really solid plot with a lot of things going on. I wouldn't have high hopes looks for like top tier RPG storytelling because it's Pokemon. I mean, even Legends Z-A was really good, but it could have been better. But from what I've been reading and seeing, it seems like a pretty good plot. And as much as I rag on Scarlet and Violet, that game had a good plot too, so maybe Pokemon is slowly learning how to do stories, which is great because I am a story person. And while I do love a good story, I know that's not why people play Pokemon games. It's for the gameplay, so let's get into it. Now, as your starters, you have 3 picks as usual: a grass, a fire, and a water. For the grass, we have Chikorita, and that's the one I'm personally gonna get because it's Chikorita. She's adorable. But if you want to go for a fire type, we have Tepig, and for our water type, we have Totodile, who is a real cutie, but honestly, I don't really like the crocodile style Pokemons. Normally, I would say it's a traditional Pokemon gameplay, we're doing this Pokemon stuff. But for this video, I'm not gonna say that because the gameplay took a huge overhaul, which is awesome. I am so sick of the same old gameplay. So it's refreshing that Pokemon Legends Z-A is gonna be different. For the first time in history, Pokemon has shifted from the turn-based mechanic to a real-time mechanic. Now that's how you get my attention. Anyways, let's get into this new gameplay. Because of the changes, moves no longer rely on power points, or PP for short. And yeah, go laugh. Instead, attacks have a cooldown meter that prevents you from spamming the heck out of them. Also, positioning does play a big role. Pokemon can move all over the battlefield. And because of these changes, moves have to be adjusted. Like, Slash would be close range attack, while Ice Beam can be used in a long range attack. But that is just the battle portion. We still have to talk about the wild zones. So wild zones are fenced off places scattered across Lumino City and are constructed as a natural habitat for wild Pokemon to roam. And it basically gives you the ability to catch wild Pokemon without going outside the city. Each zone has a different biome, and with each bio, of course, comes the Pokemon who like that bio. Now, the catching mechanic that I love so much in Legends Arceus somewhat makes a return for Legends Z-A. You can sneak around and catch unsuspecting Pokemon or battle them to catch them. Mega Evolutions are back, baby! Woo! I love Mega Evolutions, one of my favorite gimmicks of any Pokemon game, and I'm glad that they're making a return. And while I could put Mega Evolutions under gameplay, I felt like it needed its own category. My favorite Mega Evolution, by the way, is Gardevoir. Perfection. So if you guys don't know, Mega Evolutions are basically a form that a Pokemon could take, which not only changes their design for better or for worse, I've seen a lot of cursed ones, but it also gives a significant stat boost to said Pokemon. But only certain Pokemon could do a Mega Evolution. It is confirmed that we are getting 9 new Mega Evolution Pokemon, and that's just the ones they've confirmed. Of course, there's gonna be more when the game comes out. And of course, you have the already established Mega Evolution Pokemon. Here are all the known Mega Evolution Pokemons and the ones that they announced. Also, gameplay wise, they act differently from X and Y. Because remember, in past games, you are only allowed to activate one Mega in a battle. But in Pokemon Legends Z-A, you can Mega Evolute multiple times throughout the battle. But there's a bit of a caveat because there is a gauge that tells you how much Mega Evolution juice that you have left. So it's not all that different from, you can only use one, but it does give you more flexibility on how you use your Mega Evolutions. And then there's the introduction of Rogue Battles, which has a big story purpose, but it's also where you can fight a lot of Mega Evolution Pokemon. So yeah, that's all I wanted to say on the Mega Evolutions. But now we can move on to the next section, Z-A Royale. So this is basically replacing the gyms for this game. The Z-A Royale is a competition held at night in Lumino City where trainers can duke it out with each other and rise in the ranks. You could either sneak up on trainers and deal damage before the battle starts, or you could confront them head on. And each trainer has their rank above them. I kind of wish they went all Hunger Games where it's not just the Pokemon, it's you have to take out the trainer too. Okay, that's pretty dark, but that would be cool. You initially start at rank Z, and as you climb your way up, you could get to rank A, hence the name Z-A. Also, it basically goes on throughout the nights, so when it's daytime, you can't do it. Now, with that being said, I'm guessing a lot of you guys might be wondering, hey Mandy, how many Pokemon are gonna be in the game? People have counted that there's gonna be around 230 Pokemon, and the DLC Pokédex will bring it up to another 20 Pokemon. Ugh. DLC. Why am I talking about DLC in a before you buy? Now, this being a Legends game, I don't mind it being dwindled down. You kind of just want the Kalos ones plus a bit extra. And there's probably gonna be some Johto Pokemon too, like Totodile is a Johto Pokemon. And of course, it's gonna be Kanto Pokemon because there's always Kanto Pokemon. So the Pokemon overall is pretty solid. I do have some gripes, but nothing too big. Now on to the miscellaneous stuff. This is where I put things that didn't fit in the previous categories over here. First one is, I mentioned this before, but indeed there is DLC for a game that hasn't been out yet. And all this DLC comes at a whopping $30. So we're paying $70 on top of $30. Let me do the math. That's almost $100 for one game. This industry is cooked, guys. Another, I guess, sad note is there's no Pokemon abilities, but it does line up to what they did with Legends Arceus. You couldn't use abilities as well. Another point is that the Pokemon Zeragade plays a big role in this game. So if you guys don't know, X and Y were the two big games, but there was also going to be a third game called Pokemon Z, you know, X, Y, and Z, but they never really got around to doing anything for that. So with Pokemon Legends Z-A, they're doing more Z stuff. And finally, there is going to be multiplayer in this game. So that is it for my before you buy. I know I'm not like a PokeTuber or an expert when it comes to Pokemon, but I do love the series sometimes. And honestly, I'm really excited for this game. Cautiously excited. So if you guys have any questions, please let me know in the comments down below. I will answer them. Please leave a like if you liked the video. That will be greatly appreciated. And please consider subscribing if you're not yet subscribed. I do a lot of JRPG content, before you buys, pickups, all that good stuff. I'm on the way to 10K and I hope to get there by the end of the year. Hit that hype button if you want to. I still don't know what it does, but it does help a little bit. So with all that being said, I hope you guys have a fantastic, wonderful, beautiful rest of your day. And as always, play a good game. Peace, peace.